We got to find the, well, challenge or void or, problem, what somebody's really. So looking through the avatar, and that's also so specific, like you said, about the about the lifestyle changes that is going to bring the benefits, more so than anything in our punchline when we are sending emails. It's not the buildings, it's not the ppm, it's not the webinar, it's what they're going to get with when they attend that webinar and they invest. What's the outcome? I guess what you're saying is, let's tell them and show them and make them emotionally involved.
Yes.
That is the key. That is the key. Superficially, everybody gives all these numbers, but what do these numbers mean? 8.5% cash flow or equity gain or the tax ramifications, right? So the benefits and all. No, you're so right on the money. And you got to always be automated. That's the other part. Should we talk about that a little bit? You just touched it. It's so important that we get the whole website, the whole HubSpot if you're using, or ActiveCampaign or ClickFunnels. It's all fully automated. You want to kind of address that issue?
So number one, I think when people are getting started, a lot of my audience are starting capital raisers. I'd like to think that they are. Some of them obviously just are looking to scale, and some of them are people that have raised $100 million but don't know how to create their own fund. So these people, I think when it comes to automations, as they're coming up, they don't have money to buy a CRM and run in the time because they have a W-2 or some other business that they're trying to get out of. So it can become really challenging. How do I create the content and send it out week after week after week and start building my brand and start building this trust from my investors that I'm going to show up on a weekly basis? And it's really, really challenging. So this is one of the reasons a lot of people that are moving from single family into multifamily or just scaling into multifamily in general, the first time that they do it, it's very wise to partner with somebody who's already done it before, because the bank's probably not going to lend you money the first time. I think that happened to you, Vinney, and a bunch of other people. They're just like, no, I don't think so. And then if you're starting your own fund, a lot of people are going to ask, well, how many of these have you done before? And if the answer is zero, you got to deal with that objection. You can mitigate that by saying, hey, I'm working with a great sponsor and here's their track record, right? Or if, in my case, if they're asking how many of these funds have you done, I can say, hey, well, we've done about 5-6 funds as a partnership, and we have a couple more sitting on the sidelines that are going to do this, this, and this. And maybe it might be exciting for you to get into this because build to rent is blowing up because multifamily value add deals are getting harder and harder to find. So all these people are moving into assisted living and senior living and build to rent and high rise development and all these other things, heavy lift, value add. There's a whole bunch, even self-storage and mobile home and RV parks. People are diversifying and getting into these other things that are easier to make money for their investors. But the problem is that the investors still want the same thing that they've been trained to like, which is the old school multifamily, which has made everybody a ton of money over the last 10 years, right? Because it's just been straight up. It hasn't been a roller coaster. It's been straight up. Even through COVID, it's still riding straight up. So when you're starting to tell them, hey, how about you look at this build to rent project or something else, then all of a sudden you have to go through this whole education and nurturing process again. And how do you do that? By being active on social media and consistently sending a message about something like build to rent, or here's why Louisiana is hot, or here's why XYZ is doing fantastic. And here's some other guys that have been crushing it in the space. And then you're warming them up, right? But that's hard to do. And really, that's what I just wanted to say at the beginning. If you're trying to do stuff by yourself and you don't have a budget for it, it might be wise, so you're not just spinning your tires and not gaining any momentum, to partner with somebody that's done it before. And the way that you do that is by adding some value. So you got to figure out how to do that. And some of it is just, to be honest with you, a lot of people I've seen come up into this industry that have had absolutely no value to provide, except tenacity and energy and unrelenting, success and discipline, trying to get into it. And that's a quality that very few people possess. So when a mentor sees that you have that characteristic, a lot of times they'll bring you onto their team just because they know that you'll figure stuff out without them telling you to figure it out. You'll just do it by yourself because you're so enthusiastic about the industry and getting in and creating wealth and generational wealth for your bloodline and for the bloodline of all of these investors that you're going to be working with.
So true, so true. No, I'm so glad what you're hitting is so right that, multifamily was giving those cash flows, pretty strong cash flows, actually. Cash on cash was much higher. Cap rates were higher too. Now the cap rates are so compressed in the C, B, and A areas right there. Build to rent and own and all, or sales or rental are really catching on. The other factor also is that sometime we might have to shift it where now it's the equity gain, because these build to rent are not, these are ground up constructions, right? So you don't have a cash flow from dirt. And second year you're building it, and third year you're leasing it. In my case, like in assisted senior living, we only raise money when we have shovel ground. So we buy the land and we do all ordinance changes, permitting and all. Then money is raised when we start building it, And some developers are able to take money up front ahead of time because they have to buy the land from the money raised and they have to do all the things. And then it's a 4-year process, instead of it could be 4 or 5 year development process.
Yeah. So we have some distinct advantages because by the time we're raising capital, we already at that point own the land. So we've already gotten much farther along in the process, which shortens it. The other thing is we're investing in emerging markets that are secondary markets where there's not so many hoops that you have to jump through with the city in order to get entitlements. If you try to do the build to rent in Phoenix, Atlanta, Dallas, or these big cities, it's much, the city workers are having a lot more food on their plate that they have to digest, and they get to decide who they want to help and who they don't. Whereas in other communities, they're trying to grow their city, and the planners are like, you're going to build 100 houses over here. That's going to be workforce housing. We have a necessary, a big need for workforce housing. How fast can you build these? Well, it depends on how fast. Oh, here you go. Boom. Here's the paperwork. Get the entitles. Let's grow this city. We need to support the economy. Whereas big cities, they don't have the same level of, excitement about growing. So part of it is, where are you investing? Part of it is the money that you're starting with. Basically, are you starting from scratch with dirt, and then you have to go to the city, and then you have to entitle, and then you have to go through zoning changes. Then you have to do this, then you have to do that. You have to add a flood pond, and you have to make sure that depending on what city you're in, there's enough water for the next 100 years, and all of that stuff. But in certain places, you can definitely move a lot faster. And if you find an operator that's already got some of the pieces in place before they even start raising money because they're experienced in that particular niche, that always helps too. Because right now internally on a deal that we've already closed, a 506C that we've already closed, we believe that we can build this entire thing out in about 26 months. And actually faster than that. We think that we can build it out in about 20 months and then sell it 6 months later. And in other words, returning the entire investment capital back within 26 months from the time that we started. So that's extremely fast. But we, obviously are underwriting it and explaining to investors, hey, this is the 5-year timeline.
Oh, 5-year. Okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering.
So you don't want to go too crazy and be like, I promise you this, and then you can't perform. So you say 5 years, and then you say, we believe that based off of what we've done in the past, we can do something similar. And in the past, we've done it in 26 months. For sure.
Right? Excellent. No, definitely under promise, over deliver. I always say that, that way you're going to, really, show investors that you care, and you're able to have very conservative assumptions, because many of them will, in this time and age, they will question you, really. Is the rent growth is going to be this much, and what's gone on, and inflation and all that, what's happening, and we are in the midst of war, looks like right now too, with the stock market going up and down and everything. So
That's a great point.
Grab your, get you to kind of think about how is your attitude, or what made the difference. What am I trying to say is try to get into your head.
Please.
What motivates you? And then, of course, how you're reaching your goals. Are you a goal setter? What drives you, I guess. Yeah.
So what I've noticed along the years is that you can set a goal and shoot for it, and then the goals evolve and change along the way. They change very quickly based off of what you're doing. A couple years ago, if you'd asked me what my goals were, I wouldn't have told you my goal is to be a fund manager, and it wouldn't have been to go and be a developer either. But, you find certain people that are crushing it in certain areas and that can utilize your skill set, and then things start evolving and changing. But what motivates me, I think, is adrenaline and fear. So I went 1 year down to Mexico and lived off passive income, very modestly, just a very small amount of passive income. And I was living in paradise on the beach, eating tacos, drinking beers, hanging out with my dog, snorkeling, visiting theme parks. Life was amazing, except one thing was missing. I was not fulfilled because I wasn't contributing anything to the planet. And I started burning out from just basically hanging out on the beach. So I came back and was like, I need to get into real estate. Like, one of the biggest adrenaline rushes I can ever experience is like being at a closing table and signing title docs that I am now owner of real estate property in the United States of America is so exciting. And it's an homage to my father. And it's very scary and challenging, right? Because you come across all these hurdles and things, and it's challenging to go raise capital. It's challenging to go find a deal. It's challenging to go find a niche. It's hard to build a website and develop, relationships with partners, and then create communications and use of technology. And it's just so overwhelming, but it's very satisfying if you can get some of those pieces put together and contribute to an overall business that's going to help the economy, that's going to help residents, that's going to help your bloodline and generational wealth. And then you're going to help a lot of investors along the way. That's the kind of impact that I like to have. And it's scary, particularly when I left my safe salary at my old syndication company, which I was getting paid to do marketing and capital raising, and then to go off and launch a fund, which documents cost money too, folks. They're not free. Right. So it was super scary, but I'll tell you what, man, you feel alive, right? When you're just like, I have no idea how I'm going to build this entire thing out, but you feel that like fear and you're alive. And that's what gets me juiced up. I think that's why I used to like skateboarding, and I still do snowboarding and things that are kind of dangerous because they're fun.
Living on the edge.
Right.
Right. I was just meeting with my buddy. He's doing pilot lessons, right? Woo. He's a great, IT brain. He took one company to NASDAQ, sold it. Then second one is in the works. I'm angel investor with him. So he was sharing, that's one of his thing is to fly a plane, which is exciting. Let me kind of ask you, what kind of books are you reading, or some lately which have really caught your attention? And then also maybe we can talk a little bit about your apps and tools that audience can benefit from.
We're talking about mindset apps, correct?
Yeah. Sure.
I go back and reread things that I've read in the past. This I've done I think I have